Welcome and welcome back to S.WigginsTV. It's me, Worldwide Wiggins, back with some more dope content for y'all. Now, recently we just did part one of the Seven Deuce Five Hustlers. Shout out my boy Wino. You know what I'm saying? But today we gonna do a second edition. I know he's a little bit younger. He couldn't answer too much of the historical aspect of the questions, but we just finna get a broader scope, bro, and some real dope, history, from the area. So, what's the deal, man? Give it up for my boy John John, aka Rabbit, from Seven Deuce Five Hustlers. What's the deal, bro?
Wig, thank you for having me, champ. Listen, man, I just want to commend you before I do anything and say, listen, man, we appreciate and we want to commend the journalism. You understand me? Because not everybody can make the reaches that you've been reaching. And one thing as we was young, we always wanted to put our hand in the cement so that we be known for the rest of our lives. And you're doing that for some of us who once was and may not still be here, but still got that pride. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Man, thank you so much, bro. That's love, man. I really appreciate that, man, for sure, bro. All right, for sure, man. So let's take it from the tippy top. Rabbit, how did you become familiar with the Seven Deuce Five?
So I came in. My family moved from. I'm originally from out of Lakewood and out of the Lakewood neighborhoods, and so that's where really my background and upbringing had come from prior to that. And so my mom and them decided, okay, well, we trying to get to a place where a little safer, a little friendlier, a little more opportunity, and so they ended up in Lakewood, right? It was this particular area of Lakewood, which is not by the mall, the complete opposite side of Lakewood, where they was giving opportunities for black folks to be able to move over there and have some better opportunities for their families. And so we moved over there around the time of I would say 91. And so when I moved there, it took a little time. I was there for like about a year before I started interacting because I was so used to being in Linwood neighborhood and what's going on in Linwood. Even though I was bumped up against the mob, I had never seen Bloods, but really like I seen in Lakewood. And so it took a second for me to kind of understand the dynamics of what was going on over there. So, but when I did, which was around 91, I was introduced to the Seven Deuce Five.
Okay. When you met Seven Deuce Five, were they, like old school players, or were they kind of getting into their gangbang stages?
So at that time, just to be clear, the origins start in 89, 90, right? So when I say I'm moving there, I'm coming in right behind them on the next year. But just like in every other neighborhood, you have cliques, right? This is the era of the cliques, right? And so we talking like if you remember these times, I don't even know how old you are, bro, but you do your shit so well. So listen, I don't know if you remember these times, but it was the time when you had the cliques like the every woman's fantasy, every woman's dream, pimping dailies, 858s, booty boys, 211s, Mac crew. You had these crews. So
yeah.
Initially, pussy and loot or pimping all ladies, however you decided to describe it, they was one of those crews as well. You know what I'm saying? So when they started off, they was on some, knocking down a bitch and knocking down a female and breaking her pockets and. You know what I'm saying? Might go in that direction, or they was really into partying and having a good time, but standing as a unit. You know what I'm saying? So that's how they was at that particular time. But by the time we come in 91 to 92, all that fun and partying, we missed it. We caught it at the back end where now they had gunplay, and so by the time my generation come in, we catch that part of it. We don't get to have all the fun with the fun parts of it. We did, but we walked in. It was already active with the North Long Beach.
Okay. Now you mentioned a couple clicks there. You know, Booty Boys and 858. Now tell us the origins of how those beefs started. Like, how did you guys initially bump heads? Each
So,
one.
like I say, those dudes is coming up at the same time as us, and they got the same mentality. You got guys who might be from different backgrounds, but they all hanging out together, and they hanging out together out of love and a good time, and just being on some fly, saying fly moving type thing, right? So initially, let's say you from Long Beach, right? You from Long Beach. Odds are you're not gonna go west to go have a good time unless you going to Crenshaw, or you going to, what I'm saying, something like that. You're going to the Shaw, you're going to Venice, you're going to Hollywood. Other than that, when you're going out to have a good time, you're gonna go the other direction. You coming to Lakewood, you coming to Cerritos, you know what I'm saying? You coming over that way because that's where everything is at. If you from Long Beach and east, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So initially, these guys, we all the same. We all at the same parties. We all at you know what I'm saying, and everybody on some player stuff. So it's more like who knocking them down the best and who doing that. So to be honest with you, initially, the founders, our founders, they was tight with the 858s, right? So like one of the dudes who started our neighborhood name was Los. He was real tight with a dude named Bobby, I can't remember his name. It was Bobby Johnson or Bobby Richardson, but he was a well-known dude from 858, and I think he was like one of the dudes who really started 858. I can't quote it on that because I'm not one of those guys, but he was well-known. And then one of the second guys who was one of the first three who started the 7 Deuce 5, his name was Baby Boy. His name is Baby Boy, and he was real tight with a dude named Jimbo, and that linked our crew. So we was because we had Artestia High School and they had Gar, which, so mind you, they doing the same thing. They mamas are trying to get them out of keeping them from going to Jordan. They in North Long Beach, so they don't want to go to Poly. They don't want to go to Wilson because then they got to go deal with those East Side dudes over there. So where your mama gonna send you? They gonna send you to Lakewood. That's the closest next spot to where what I'm saying, where you gonna your kid gonna get a good education. So they send them to Gar. They send them to Cerritos. You know what I'm saying? And we had Artesia. So, those friendships where, we start off playing football and having a good time and going out, those friendships end up turning sour.
Oh,
And eventually casualties came from that.
oh, for beefing with them clicks?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, shoot, we gonna start this. We gonna start this early. Out of all of them clicks that you guys went at it with, which click, not gang, which click gave y'all the most competition?
The problem is the problem with okay. So the question you asked is a great question, but here go the problem with the question. So, like our initial jump off the porch where gunplay started happening was with the 858s, right?
Okay.
And we go the problem with that. So let's say now we so let's say these dudes went on the offense real heavy, right? Because they a good loved one of theirs went down, right? You know what I'm saying? A real respected and loved guy, you know what I'm saying, went down. And those guys took it serious, and when they took it serious, they went on a campaign, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then so let's say the problem with that is, okay, so now when we go back on offense, this one dude right here, he from 858, but he from Old Hood. This dude right here, he from 858, he from Fort Corner Block. This dude right here from 858, but he from Boulevard.
Oh, okay.
So, the problem with that is, so now we inheriting, the beef with them turned into a larger beef because all these dudes is their background is really in somebody else's neighborhood, and they loved in that neighborhood because they just a little brother, a little cousin, a little something, and then everybody at the same time is graduating off the porch. And what you do after you graduate off the porch, you jump to the real thing. You see what I'm saying? So that was the way it was going with us because it evolved. Eventually, we could stop beefing with the crews, and now we bumping into the gang because each one of them dudes really was just a recruit for that neighborhood. You know what I'm saying?
For sure. All right. So wow.
So to answer your question, I would say that 8-5. It's just
I
really
pretty
at
much.
some point in time we bumped with all of them from the Mac Mafias all down Artesia, from the Mac Mafias. All the Mac Mafias really when they got on, they was like they was an active crew, right? Active gang. You know what I'm saying? They was moving with the Lakewood 211s and they was moving hard. So I would say eventually those were the dudes we targeted because they was the most active. But the dudes who was really willing to come to Lakewood where the police super heavy was the 858s.
Oh dang. That's cool, man. Because a lot of people be downplaying the 858s, man. You know, but nah, for sure. All right. Now let's move on. All right. So see what you just said about like different like members came to this clique, so it's kind of hard to decipher. You know, I get what you was trying to say. So with that being said, what hood was these people coming from to the Seven Deuce Five that formed the Hustlers? Like, who put the Hustlers on it? Was the Tenfold Hard Times? Did they come over there? Like, what hoods was coming to Seven Deuce Five to initiate it?
Okay. So I'm gonna have to go a little bit prior to the question you asked and to make it all make sense. Okay.
Okay, okay.
So it's a group of dudes that's all like I said around 89, 90, 91 when they opened up the opportunity for black people to move in Lakewood. They allowed it in a certain section, and it's this section. So you got a lot of dudes moving from all over Long Beach, Compton, Carson, Linwood. You got people moving over to this section, and when they get there, they find out even though they from all different hoods, the only like-minded people they got is each other. So, they end up kind of just forming friendships and bonds. And because it's on one side you got Asians, the next you got white folks, and then you got all Mexicans, and then you got black folks scattered in between. And it's low numbers. It's building, but at the early ages of 80, 89, 90 is still low numbers. It really don't pick up to like 91, 92. But, so with those guys hanging out and being friends, they running into the Hawaiian Gardens, who have really. So the area that we talking about, which is the 7 Deuce 5, which is the Trey by 7 Hustlers, it on paperwork before black folks moving in there, it belonged to the Lakewood side Artesias. And and so, but the Lakewood side Artesias are so. There's so much space between them and their home base, which is the Barrio Artesias and the Artechivas. They so far away that Hawaiian Gardens was able to kind of, infiltrate their area without any force. And so now they moving black folks in this exact area now. We kind of moving there little by little. And so they opened up first apartment complexes, right? You know what I'm saying? So anyway, just to skip a little bit, let you take me back. What happened is this crew of black people who was all hanging out together was starting to defend themselves against Hawaiian Gardens. They starting to branch. It's not their area, but they feel like it's theirs because they kind of have annexed it, and so somebody ended up getting knocked down in '89, and the young brother who happened to get knocked down was the nephew of the dude who started the Mexican Mafia, who go by the name of Hero Buff. I think his real name is Luis Flores, and he was like the founding member of the Hawaiian, from the Mexican Mafia, and one of the first 5 members. Both of them, one of the first 5 members, 2 of them was from Hawaiian Gardens, and his nephew got knocked down in '89, and this so-called crew of black people was said to have done that, right? So right after that, these guys put a name to themselves, which would end up being the 7 Deuce 5.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Well, all right. Let's switch gears for a little bit. So I'm hearing that there's a slight. Well, I don't know if it's slight or not, but you guys, you have some stories actually about the Linwood Hustler Mafia out there.
well, yeah, because the thing is, it was a young YG. He stayed in. He was from Lakewood Hustler Mafia. A lot of, like I said, a lot of people moving from their areas over there. So, YG from Lakewood Hustler Mafia, he moved over there, and so he was just another dude who we accepted, and as we doing our thing, we meeting with other hustlers. Like, a lot of our influence do come from the 706. 706, we kind of adopted their slang, or adopted a little bit of their style, because at one point in time, our founders, they really was tight with the 706s, and so then we just followed tradition, and so the next generation, we all had partners from 706. But then, we influenced the dudes in Cerritos. They was the 447 hustlers.
Right.
And then we also went into Paramount, and we influenced another crew over there to become the 7 Deuce Trey hustlers. And so, and the Linwood Hustler Mafia was already pushing the HMG just like the 706s was. And so our whole thing was, we was trying to put together a whole, everything 605 South. Linwood ain't 605 South, but everything else is 605 South. So we was trying to put this whole Hustler Mafia thing together so we could all be united. Even though we all influenced by the 706, the HMG was going to bring us all together. So, that was just something that we was trying to implement. And I'm including the Trey 57s in that as well, because that really was the plan for them. It just, didn't come to fruition. But I didn't fully answer a question you asked me earlier. You said some of our influence, the dudes who started the 7 Deuce 5, I would say the first 3 dudes, Baby Boy, Big Mick, which Wino mentioned, Baby Boy, Big Mick, and Los. Los came from, his background is the Fruittown Pyrus. His family and everybody from Fruittown, and a lot of his cousins stayed coming back and forth through Lakewood, and so that was one of the initial groups of friends that they hung with, the Fruittown Pyrus. And then Baby Boy, I don't know if he's a Lakewood dude, so he's an original Lakewood, so he didn't have a past. And then Big Mick was out of 20 Outlaws, so a lot of the original guys, those guys, there was a Damu presence, you know what I'm saying? But they went from 3 to 25 within like a 7 to 10 day run, and so there was a nice mix of Long Beach, of course, of those dudes, Long Beach and Damu, but really, everybody who moved in that section really find out fast that wherever you came from, it's fine, but over here the black folks really don't fight each other. We don't really want no inner beef. So if you a hood nigga and you active, join this organization to where we moving together, because these Hawaiian Gardens been here since the 40s. These body Artesia's been here since the 40s. These are real gangs with heavy, high-ranking mafia members. You know what I'm saying? And so if you think they playing, you're going to find out fast they not. You see what I'm saying?
For sure. Now, the number one question is, man, where did the number 7 Deuce 5 come from?
So so look, we pussy and loot, and so like one of the things is that we could take credit for. If we one of the first, we are one of the first or the first set phone number type gangs. Like nowadays, you see you always, everybody heard of 6'6" Deuce from the mob, you know what I'm saying? But they got that 6'6" Deuce come off the phone. So that was one of the things we was doing in 89, 90, you know what I'm saying? The Pussy and Lou PAL is 725 on the phone. But where it came from initially is we had some homegirls who, the homegirl Tika and they little crew, they was moving before, they had a little crew before we was, so they inspired us. They was the crew called Pimpin' All Niggas. And they was going so hard in the section that some of the homies decided to, and they had a number acronym. It was 7 do something, but I don't got it in front of me. But they was moving before some females, and then the homies just were so inspired by what they was doing that they adopted some of their. So it's 7 do spot come from the Pussy and Lou, or the older homies say Pimpin' All Ladies. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, that's cool. I would have never thought.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what it is, man. Tell us about the transition from 7 Deuce 5 to the Trey 5-7. Like, I'm hearing you got a lot to do with that. You got history on it.
Yes, and no, because I wanna give these dudes credit, you know what I'm saying, because they really did track their own trail, but at the same token, you know, the Trey 5-7s are our family. Like, you know what I'm saying? We occupied the same space at the same times. It's just some of us was older or just more active before they was. That's really the only difference, right? You know, so like I was telling you early on, before we kind of took the space that was the Lakewood side Artesia, before we took the spot that used to be the Lakewood Dukes, those are SA games. Before we came and kind of positioned ourselves there, we only had a few spots, right? We was on Delamo, was the main side for us, right? We had the Ville Apartments on Delamo, then we had the condos on Norwalk Boulevard, and we had Hawaiian Garden Apartments on Centralia. And the Hawaiian Garden Apartments on Centralia is where most of the Trey 5-7s grew up. And those guys are different from us is they've been living over in Lakewood their whole lives. Like, they grew up right there. Like, you know what I'm saying? Those guys been there forever. But they was our little brothers. They was our little homies. They was the guys we loved, and those the guys we protected, and those the guys who showed us love in return as they was getting older. And so really what happened with us was that those guys was when I said they was our little brothers, I mean they really was our little brothers. And so when we started really hitting the pen, we really started to catch large charges. We starting to inherit real beasts where deals we dealing with. We elevated when the game elevated and started going to wherever it went, we went with it. And so now we bumping heads with we bumping heads with dudes that these guys, in our opinion, was not ready for, right? So we love these dudes so much, and we seeing the talent in these dudes. Like, these dudes still had hoop dreams, and you got to understand that area. We got people we look up to, like the O'Bannon brothers, who you come to school and you go to school over there. You go to Artesia High School, you got a chance of going to the NBA. You know what I'm saying? You got a chance over there. There's so much opportunity over there. And when you come from certain environments, you really can see those experiences. So then when you love your little brothers, you don't want to see them succumb to death, right?
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
right.
Especially if they not going that route yet. You know what I'm saying? And so me myself, I'm gonna say me and the homeboy Woodrow, because I lived in the Hawaiian Garden Apartments where all the founders stayed except for the big dog RB, and I want to talk to you about RB and that a little bit. But these guys stayed in the Hawaiian Garden Apartments. All the founders of the Trey 5 stayed in the Hawaiian Garden Apartments, and I stayed in there as well. And so these dudes, at some point in time, I became the OG, and not the OG, I don't want to use that word, but let's just say the high standing figure in there. And so I felt so responsible for these dudes because, man, I love them so much. I'm watching them do their thing, and they was there for my mommy and my sisters, and you know what I'm saying. And so I just really built a bond with them, and it was a time where we could have forced the issue to make them come that way, but then I stood in between my homeboys, the 7 Deuce 5. Really at this point now we so war torn and hard and aggressive. I knew that they, let's say, because they started going through things. I just knew they wasn't going to perform at this time. At this moment, I didn't think they would perform in a proper way, and I didn't want them subject to our discipline. So I did everything I could to allow them to be their own entity, because it didn't matter. The name didn't matter. These are dudes, like these are literally our brothers. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the dudes, one of the dudes I told you, Big Mick started. The 7 Deuce 5, his little brother RB, who was still 7 Deuce 5, he is the biggest figure from the Trey 5-7s that they ever had. This is, this is the dude who started the Trey 5-7s along with his, 2 or 3 partners. And this is the dude who eventually connected them with the BMFs, and who eventually connected them with the Sinaloa cartel. So they you know what I'm saying? So but it's families, and it's not just that, not that one family. It's a bunch of us that's really just my little brother. One nigga in the house from 7 Deuce 5, the other little dude from 357. So it's just the separation really, but we all family, but the separation come because I just felt like we was a little bit more war torn, and we had enemies, especially the North Long Beach guys. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, we bumping with the Mac Mafias, we bumping with that whole Artesia, everything up Artesia and down to Lamo. We didn't necessarily want them to have to pick up that. You know what I'm saying? They was gonna have to deal with the Hawaiian Guards no matter what they called themselves. But you know what I'm saying? But like I said, those dudes are our family. We gave them space to be their own selves, and also to not have to deal with our principalities, disciplinary movements, and things like that. And we knew eventually they was going to have to graduate. And we thought that when they did graduate, the dudes who graduated, they was going to kind of drift over to us. As the dudes who was turning up was going to slowly drift to us, because that was the difference. It's just, if you got the hoop dreams, and you got basically it was the military side and the dudes who still had dreams and aspirations of going to college and different things like that. But what ended up happening was we all ended up going to the penitentiary, and we just started getting a lot of time, 17 years here, 10 years here, 15 years here, the young niggas going to YA, and everybody else going to the penitentiary, and we getting big stretches because we're going to court in Norwalk. And while we do that, we left them, unattended. Next thing you know, when we come home, they robbing banks, and you know what I'm saying, they done built themselves a small empire.
Okay. It happens, man.
Yeah. But it's all in love, because we come home to them and we just proud of them, and they love us and we love them. You know what I'm saying? And one of the things I wanted to tell you, I want to mention the 2 figures, because you got my man Wino on there, and that's my loved one. And like I want to say about Wino is, Wino would have been a first-round draft pick in anybody's hood, because he was 12 years old. He come over there, he already fully active, and he moving like somebody 5 to 10 years his age. He don't have a bit of fear in his heart, and he's a warrior, right? And then we got brothers like RB, who, like I say, RB, who go by the name of Roy Bird. The Birds family is so influential over there because, like I said, his older brother Mick was one of our founders, and then RB is one of the founders of the Trey 5-7, and to this day, right now, their little brother Beast is the face and figure over there right now today. And maybe I would just say even the younger brother beneath them, Jawan, might be the face right now. But yeah, that family always had such an influence with everybody in the community. The names just never really mattered because we just were so close knit. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, for sure. So we about to get critical, man. It's no secret you guys went up against the Hawaiian Guards, the racism. But I'm hearing man, the Muslims, the Nation of Islam came in there, man, to assist y'all. Talk about that.
So